Okay, hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar, Deep Exploration for Manufacturing. My name is Lisa Jensen and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for Right Connect. Right Connect is Right Hemisphere's distribution partner for Asia Pacific, and as such we're organizing and delivering this webinar. Some of you have already attended one or both of the Deep Exploration webinars we delivered last week. So to those of you, welcome back, and I'm very happy to see that you would like to find out more about this great product. You might already be familiar with the first part of this webinar, but as there are also quite a few new people here today, I want to make sure to cover the whole story. So please bear with me if you are already familiar with the first part. I will get to the new and interesting part soon. Just one more little housekeeping item before I get started. We've muted all of you to minimize background noise and to make sure that you can all hear us loud and clear. So if you do need to communicate with us during the webinar, please use the chat facility in the GoToTraining interface. Okay, so let's have a look at what we'll be covering today. Well, first of all, I'll give you a brief introduction to the company Right Hemisphere and their product range, as well as the emerging concept of visual communication. And we will then take a closer look at the value of visual communication and deep exploration, particularly for manufacturing departments. After that, we will walk the talk and show you a live demonstration of this great product. And in the end, I will talk a little bit about one of Right Hemisphere's existing customers and how they are using deep exploration in their manufacturing department. So Right Hemisphere is a world leader in the emerging market of visual communication for product development companies. And you might have not heard much about this company before, but believe me, that is going to change soon. Because Right Hemisphere was founded about 13 years ago here in New Zealand, and since then has mostly been focused on developing a customer base in the US. And they have been very successful with that and can call some of the world-leading manufacturing companies their customers. Just to give you an example, out of 8 largest defense and airspace companies in the US, 6 are using Right Hemisphere software for visual communication. And you can see a few more examples of Right Hemisphere's customers listed at the bottom of this slide, including Boeing, Gulfstream, Nike, Bell Helicopters. So it is really the who's who of manufacturing companies. However, in recent years, Right Hemisphere has started to realize the potential of the Asia Pacific market as the fastest growing region in the world. Therefore, they're now focusing on bringing their products and their experience to companies in these regions. So you'll be hearing a lot more about Right Hemisphere and their products in the coming years. At the moment, Right Hemisphere's product range includes these 3 key products. Deep Exploration, which is the product we'll be focusing on during this webinar, is the desktop tool that enables users to create visual communication material, such as animations, renderings, and technical illustrations. And many of Right Hemisphere's large customers are creating so much material with Deep Exploration that they need a way to manage all that content. And that is where Deep Server comes in. With Deep Server, customers can manage the collateral created in Deep Exploration, and they can also automate some processes that otherwise would need to be done manually. And a fantastic addition to the Right Hemisphere product range is the free viewer, Deep View. Deep View can be downloaded from the Right Hemisphere website, and it enables anyone, anywhere, to access the material created in Deep Exploration. And what makes Deep View special and different to most other free viewers that are available, the extensive markup functionalities that are included, and the ability to save these markups and share them with others. So this is a really valuable tool, especially considering that it is free. Okay, so that gives you a bit of background information on Right Hemisphere and their product range. So why should you consider adopting Right Hemisphere software in your business? Well, to really understand the value of deep exploration and visual communication, let's take a look at the product development and delivery environment. So if you think of the process of delivering a new product, you could split that up into two phases. First of all, the new product needs to be designed and developed. And then in the second stage, the product needs to be delivered to the market. And that means it needs to be manufactured, and supporting materials such as marketing collateral and documents like user and service manuals need to be developed. In most modern product development companies, CAD products have helped to optimize the product development and design phase, up to a point now where any further investment in this area only leads to very limited returns. Therefore, next big efficiency improvements are very unlikely to happen in the product development phase. Interestingly, though, at the same time, in most companies, there is still a lot of room for improvement in the product delivery phase. And investments in this area have the potential to lead to some significant improvements in returns. And at Hemisphere and the whole team around that Hemisphere, including us here at RightConnect, we all strongly believe that visual communication can help companies to achieve this next level of performance. Visual communication is an exciting new paradigm shift to communicate large amounts of information faster and more effectively, especially across language, cultural, and educational barriers. Just imagine your company could communicate the product data that is created in CAD models in the engineering department visually with everyone involved in the process of bringing a new product to the market. And then take it one step further and imagine that departments such as sales and marketing, service and support, and of course manufacturing could use this information to optimize their processes and to bring new products to the market faster. And that is exactly what Hemisphere's deep exploration enables you to do. Deep exploration gives everyone access to CAD data and enables people to create required documents and material without extensive CAD licenses or any CAD knowledge. So you don't need to be a trained engineer. This is a very simple, straightforward, easy-to-use software that anyone can just work with. More specifically, deep exploration combines 6 key functionalities. First of all, it enables you to open native CAD files and translate them into the RH file format. So no matter whether your engineers are working with ProEngineer or AutoCAD or any other CAD software, you can open these files with deep exploration. And deep exploration is a CAD-independent tool, which means you can even combine different CAD files and import a CAD model from one CAD software and then bring it together with a CAD model from another software. And once you've imported all this data and created the RH file, you can do a whole lot of great things with it. For example, sales and marketing can develop photorealistic images and use them to develop marketing material earlier and faster and with more creative control and less dependency on engineering departments. Similarly, service and support can create technical illustrations for documents such as user and service manuals earlier, faster, and easier, and at very high quality, and again, without depending on an engineering department to help them do it. And within the manufacturing department, you can use the animation functionality to create interactive 3D work instructions to train your shop floor staff faster and more effectively. And you'll see examples of this later on. The engineering team can use the markup functionality to capture non-engineering feedback in design reviews earlier and while changes are still possible. And once you've created all this content, you can publish it into a number of different formats, including PDF, HTML, AVI, or you can use DView to embed documents into Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. And there's a whole long list of other formats that you can publish to. In summary, this means deep exploration enables the organization to communicate visually by giving the wider organization access to CAD data. Now, that was a bit of background information on deep exploration and the value of visual communication in general. But now let's take a closer look at deep exploration's value specifically for manufacturing departments. Before we can really understand the value, we need to have a quick look at some of the main challenges manufacturing departments face. And in a nutshell, they are the same type of challenges that every department and every company is confronted with these days. It's doing things better, faster, and at lower cost. For manufacturing, that means increasing shop floor productivity, reducing assembly errors, improving product quality, reducing manufacturing costs, and improving efficiency of manufacturing staff training. But then the question really is, how does deep exploration help to address and overcome these challenges? Well, first of all, with deep exploration, the manufacturing department can create animations that show assembly procedures step by step and with detailed and clear instructions. And these are very interactive animations, and you can pause them and rewind and replay steps to make sure you really understand how you're supposed to assemble a product. And that leads to a reduction in errors and improved product quality. The manufacturing department can also use these visual work instructions to train shop floor staff faster and more effectively. And this is particularly valuable for the increasing number of manufacturing companies that are operating in several countries and therefore have to train people in different languages. While written instructions would need to be translated into each language, visuals are a universal language that everyone understands. So again, there are huge costs and time savings. And once all this material has been created, it can be published into 3D PDFs, or the manufacturing department can use Red Hemisphere's free viewer eView to share work instructions with the people on the shop floor and everyone else involved at no additional cost. And now you might think, well, that's all very interesting, but I don't actually have computers on the shop floor. So what's the value of this if I can't play animation? Well, you could just convert these animations into static images and create printed manuals that show workflows step by step in clear and easy to understand images. And images might not be as great as animations are, but it's still a lot better than just having to describe everything in words. But instead of me continuing to talk about it, let's walk the talk and show you a live demonstration of this fantastic product. With me here is Madan, our technical manager. And Madan just joined the team at Bike Connect a few weeks ago, and it is really amazing how quickly he was able to learn the software. And now, just a few weeks later, he's able to demonstrate it to others. So I'm handing over to Madan, who will show you through this demonstration.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everybody. Over the next 15 minutes, I will demonstrate how deep exploration can be used for visual communication in manufacturing domain. I'm going to demonstrate using the Dirt motorbike as a product. Overall, the demonstration flow today is going to be on introduction to the deep exploration user interface, leveraging on the animation capabilities to create step-by-step procedures for manufacturing personnel, and finally, publishing the different outputs in terms of PDF, 3D HTML, and so on. Manufacturing personnel receive design and manufacturing information in different CAD formats. We can seamlessly use all these CAD formats to create our step-by-step procedures. Here is a huge list of 2D and 3D CAD information that deep exploration can really leverage to create manufacturing procedures. Let's have a look at one of the manufacturing assembly procedure, as in for the fork assembly. Here are the different parts and the layouts being placed there before they get assembled. Then the sequence of different assemblies of different parts of these forks are demonstrated. The critical to quality dimensions that really demonstrate the orientation of the components, the different fasteners involved, the directions in which they get involved, and the tools really used to assemble them. Let's see how easily we can create one similar animation to assemble the fasteners. Let's create a sequence and name it as fasten for us to really recognize a little later. There are several controls in the animation. These tools are really downloaded. We really need not have to create them. They are already available in the download database. Similarly, I just want to have further control over on the screwdriver. And finally, all of them just go and get assembled on the final location. I just had a brief preview of that. That sounds okay, and then we go ahead and assemble this. At the same time, we can also simulate how it really gets rotated while fastening. Let's have a brief preview of this. Yes, there it goes, and we've got a logical assembly of the same. The very next logical step for us is in the entire step-by-step procedure, we really need to add this as a final step of assembling the caliper. I've just given the name as fasten. We've already got the list of the animations that we have created. And we have this new procedure step. This was our previous step, wherein we just assembled one of the fasteners of the brake caliper. And finally, we have got this step that talks about fastening the final fastener of the brake caliper. We also have some more parts that we really need to assemble. Let's create one of the sequence for the mudguard. Similarly, name them. All I've got to do is start recording the movements. It's really very easy. It's just about the way we are going to manually go ahead and assemble it. That's how I'm just trying to move it in here. Just go ahead and place them onto the top. Let's see a quick preview of this. Yes, there we go. We just manually move it and then finally assemble it onto the location. Similarly, we just need to add this as a logical step, calling it as a mudguard, leveraging the animation that we've already created. To show you a brief, the last step was fastening the caliper, and finally assembly of the mudguard itself. Now, over the years, Right Hemisphere has invested a lot in automating and templatizing the various outputs and collaterals we will be able to share with the manufacturing team. As soon as I just right-click on few of these procedures, I would be able to output this in different formats. It could be a raster video or a vector format. It just takes a moment for us to really generate one of those steps as a vector format, wherein the entities are really interactive. They're already illustrated. These are something that are static. There are a few sequences that I have collated into a PowerPoint presentation, which talks about the different steps we just saw. And deep exploration really sends this output within a single minute in generating these steps. And all these, when populated in a PowerPoint, are DeepView enabled, wherein we will be able to do some basic measurements. We will be able to give certain callouts or some comments on it for design changes or so on. We would also be able to generate a movie file, as I said. Here is one of the movies that I have generated and embedded on a PowerPoint. This is generated with a real low resolution. However, deep exploration enables us to create really high resolution outputs. The benefit being, deep exploration enables us from creating these dynamic, easy to share assembly procedure to manufacturing at the shop floor. Now, as Lisa rightly said, many of the places probably there is a challenge of some resources using these in a native format. There are several templates that deep exploration really provides. They are very interactive output. This is one of the 3D PDFs. As I keep highlighting on the 3D PDF, it highlights me the bill of material. And as I hover my mouse over on the PDF, it's going to tell me what is the name of the part, what is the kind of quantity. We would also be able to play the same animation in the 3D PDF. So this way, these contents are really dynamic and can be shared with the shop floor people. In case we do have an intranet, we could also leverage the same thing as an HTML file that we see in here. And they are very, very interactive entities. We would be able to zoom in them, interact with them, create callouts, see the different steps involved, pull the parts apart, and so on. Utilizing the existing symbols in library in deep exploration, there is a huge list of library of symbols that is available. When I initially said deep exploration is really a customizable tool or a configurable tool, here you can see that there are a few tabs that I have created just by creating a folder for the different kind of equipment that we might want to use in the manufacturing. There are different aspects of manufacturing. Here is when there is a tab talking about fabrication, the different inspections involved, and so on. It is really just a drag and drop of all these symbols into our user interface. Now that was pretty much about the assembly aspect in manufacturing. Now here are different visuals that can be involved while we are creating different collaterals or steps and procedures. Here is the motor assembly, and we have got different visuals here talking about the target time that this needs to be assembled. We can follow different manufacturing processes like just-in-time, flexible manufacturing, and so on, or we may not have any initiatives, but we do have all these visual representations in place with different equipment involved in assembling all these. Now, while we talk about the basic tools required, here it also gives in a lot of clarity in terms of callouts. It gives the different names of these parts that are really involved in the motor assembly, when they really need to arrive for the final assembly, check for inspections if they are ready, and there are these assembly tools that talk about what is required. Finally, all these parts in an animated way come and get assembled. Here these visuals talk about the assembly gearbox that needs to be assembled, the crankcase that needs to be put, assembly the gears, and so on. Here we talk about again the processes and the equipment required. One of the components of this motor is the oil sump cover. The arrows that are really being simulated there at the top are a simulation of the drill tool. Now we can easily download all these drill tool bits that is readily available. We really need not have to create as a CAD file, but in case we do have in our database, we can straight away go ahead and use them and really animate them. Now these are certain tools that are really required. These are just 2D images. we can really logically locate them based on the sequence. The top one talks about the operation. These ones at the bottom talk about the tools and techniques that are really needed. Now, on this part, what we have really seen is just an animation of the drilling operation. However, once these operations are really done, there are these different color indications that are visually communicating the final user that the operation of drilling has been really performed on this hole. Often manufacturing team come across modification or changes from the design team at the very, very last hour. Now our tools and techniques really need to be very well equipped to accommodate all these changes. In this case, what we see is an inspection that is required on this, and finally when we use a machining center or a drilling machine, we will be able to perform one of these hole drilling. For productivity needs, we might want to really leverage on different processes like can drilling or can cycles for us to perform all these operations all at once. It's really easy and user-friendly for us to create these deep exploration animations to really train our manufacturing people in creating all this. Let's create one of the face milling operations that really needs to be done on this. However, we can either use the cutter tools like the face milling, or we can animate this arrow to simulate as a face milling cutter. However, the concept holds the same, though either we use a face milling cutter or this arrow. Let's create a new sequence of this. Name it as facing. I really want to move it in the direction as though it's going to really face mill the entire face on the top. While the same is being done, it really needs to be rotated. And there we go. I'm just going to quickly play this that as though the face milling is going to happen. It's just not about the animation of the arrow, but we could also use a 3D model of the face milling cutter to indicate that the facing operation is being done. This could be one of the logical steps in our manufacturing. Similarly, the other aspect in manufacturing could be the fabrication, and we really need to create some prefabrication processes like cleaning up the faces, degreasing, and the tools that we really need to use in them. Here is how we can leverage in case we want to indicate an all-round weld on the chassis of the bike. The animations indicate that how the welding really needs to be performed and what are the technical aspects to be taken care of while we're creating the weld. Similarly, on another location where we need to create a vertical weld, here is how we can leverage on the animation of deep exploration to create a vertical weld. On the whole, whatever we have seen today with deep exploration, we can effectively communicate using the visuals that are universally accepted. Thus, it reduces a lot of communication gap in manufacturing and enables us a global collaboration. I would like to hear more from you as to how we could adopt the visual communication in your manufacturing teams. Now let us hear a few customer success stories from Lisa.
Thank you, Madan. And I hope all of you found this demonstration interesting, and it helped you to get a better understanding of the things you can do with deep exploration and how simple and quick it is. So next, I would like to tell you a bit more about one of Hemisphere's existing customers and how they are using deep exploration in their manufacturing department. And the company we're going to be talking about is Spirit Aerosystems. And they are the world's largest supplier of commercial airplane assemblies and components, with manufacturing facilities and business facilities across 3 continents. And speaking about communication across cultural and educational language barriers, they would probably have a few stories to tell there. The challenge for Spirit is probably one that's very familiar to all of you as well. They had to increase the effectiveness of their manufacturing processes and also reduce the costs at the same time. And basically, this meant they had to reduce the time required to train shop floor staff, they had to reduce assembly errors, and improve product quality. And Spirit has adopted deep exploration to address these challenges. They are using animations created in deep exploration to show each assembly procedure step by step with clear instructions. And these animations are then used to train shop floor staff and to demonstrate workflows. And we have a really great sample of an animation that Spirit created. And the whole animation is quite long. And if we only have limited time for this webinar and already running a little bit over time, I will just show you one step out of this animation. So we're using the view here to view this. And I'm just going to show you one of these. Let's take this one. So here you can see how they're demonstrating the assembly process. And they're using those yellow signs to show what tools should be used. They're using arrows to point towards the parts on the product that need to be assembled. And I'm sure you're all going to agree this is really valuable for someone who needs to learn how to do these workflows. And communicating this visually, just imagine how much text would be needed to explain to someone how to do this. So with using deep exploration and visual communication, Spirit was able to significantly reduce the time required to train shop floor staff, especially when they had to train them in different languages and maybe with people that are from different educational backgrounds. And this has also been reported by other companies that are using deep exploration in their manufacturing department. These companies report that they were able to reduce the time required to train new staff by up to 50%. And it also increased the effectiveness of the training and the understanding of people on the shop floor. And better training with clear and visual instructions leads to fewer errors during the assembly procedure, and that improves the product quality. So overall, this means for Spirit increased effectiveness and significant cost savings, and that is exactly what they were trying to achieve. And if you would like to see a bit more of that animation from Spirit, just stay online at the end of the webinar, and I'll show you a few more steps. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar, Deep Exploration for Manufacturing. I hope you found it interesting and informative, and that you were able to really see the value deep exploration offers to manufacturing departments. This was the third webinar in a series of 4, so we've got one more to come. And that will be this week, Thursday, at the same time. And we'll be looking at deep exploration's value for design, communication, and collaboration. And of course, all of you are invited to join us for that webinar as well. And you will receive an email from me shortly with information on how to join that remaining session. So thank you very much for joining us today. If you have any questions, I would strongly encourage you to get in touch with your local reseller who can answer questions and provide more information. And alternatively, if you would rather contact us at Vice Connect directly, you can do so by replying to that email you'll get from me shortly. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm just going to show a bit more from that Spirit example. If you're interested, you can stay and have another look.
Okay.